Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel. We are finally home with our sweet baby girl, and oh my goodness, what a roller coaster ride it had been, but wouldn't change it for the world. It was just so remarkable, unbelievable, but also quite unexpected. We were going back and forth about doing an induction, and in our last video we had mentioned where we were approaching the 40-week mark. Me and my husband, after much discussion, finally agreed upon doing the induction, and so we arranged a date and time with the hospital. So that was all ready to roll. Now the day before the induction, we had our final OBGYN appointment. We ended up going to it and I felt quite off. I wasn't feeling myself. I was just kind of feeling weird. It was hard to explain. I was almost kind of dizzy and I didn't feel myself. Now I didn't have no pain in regards to in my stomach or my back, nothing like that. It was just mostly like I said, just dizzy and just feeling kind of off. And I was just sitting there in the appointment. We were waiting and waiting, and I just kept saying to my husband, I don't feel myself. I just don't feel good. So we ended up going into the OBGYN office, and the first thing she did was take my blood pressure, and she looked at me and she said, okay, you two are going directly to the hospital here today. Found out that it was 156/90 something. It was skyrocketing my blood pressure. So we went home, got the dogs all situated, got our bags, went then directly to the hospital. When we went in, they brought me straight to a room where they checked my blood pressure again. It was still quite high. They gave me some medication to help reduce my blood pressure, and they just came back and forth, steady monitoring it. Eventually it ended up getting down to 136/something. I'll put it here on the screen. But it was still quite high. So they said, well, you're gonna be here for a few days and we're going to do your induction tonight instead. So I looked at my husband, I was like, okay, this is quite unexpected. I kind of knew this was going to happen. They said, if we do the induction tonight, induction could take a few days. It could happen this evening, or like I just stated, it could take a few days. So I just looked at my husband. I said, well, I guess this is happening now tonight. So we waited and waited to see if it would happen tonight. They came down again, said they were way too busy. Instead, they were going to place me up in a room. Induction will take place the following morning. So I said to my husband, I said, okay, well, we were supposed to have our induction the next day anyway. At least here now they can monitor my blood pressure and everything else. So we're in a good place. And we had our bags. And my husband, like he said, he would go back and forth to check on the dogs, make sure they were getting fed, make sure they were getting let out, everything like that. So he was steady back and forth to the hospital. We ended up going upstairs then and placed in another room where we just unpacked our bags a little bit, set ourselves up. We were steady rotating between me in the bed and my husband. He kept insisting once again, no, like you stay in the bed, you're the one that needs it. But I kept saying, listen, you need your rest too. The chair is not comfortable. Let's rotate. And I don't mind doing that because the bed was quite uncomfortable. So I didn't mind sharing that bed with my husband. It was better than the chair. So again, like I said to him, let's just rotate. You can get in the bed for a bit. I'll get in the chair, because once I do go into labor and baby's here, there's a high chance it's just going to be me remaining in the bed, and you're not going to have that luxury anymore. Not so much of a luxury, but it was still quite a luxury to us versus the chair. So like I said to him, once labor happened, I knew he wasn't going to have that anymore of laying in the bed and rotating. So I just wanted to do that because I felt really bad. I didn't want him just cooped up in the chair. Anyway, so we just rotated back and forth when it came to the bed. The food there wasn't actually all that bad. It was all right. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't great. It was like an in-between. It was good enough. And all the kitchen staff who were coming up were extremely kind and just warm and just did everything they could to make sure we were happy. So I greatly appreciated that. So the next day came, the next morning came, and they said, oh, later that day we would have the induction. Later that day came, and then they said, oh, you're going to be here another night. We're just very swamped and busy. So we ended up remaining there. Blood pressure was still kind of all over the place. It was up, down, up, down. Then we found out about my iron. My iron was kind of all over the place, which is to be expected anyway when pregnant. But the main concern, like they said, was my blood pressure, because it was just steady elevating greatly and then dropping. So they just kept me on the blood pressure medication. Then I realized, okay, unless I go into labor, this is probably going to remain a thing. We're going to be here for days on end. It seems like they're very busy. When we knew we were going to stay yet another night, I knew, okay, I have to try to make myself go into labor. So I started walking up and down the hallways around 4 o'clock in the morning. The nurses were just looking at me like, okay, I think they knew what I was trying to do. I'm sure they see it all the time. But again, it was like 4 o'clock in the morning. I was trying to get myself to go into labor, and I was just back and forth the hall, just trying to get baby to come. The next day came, they said induction would take place again. We ended up there a few days. I can't even honestly recall how many days we were there. I just knew we were there for a few days. I've heard things such as once you reach the 41, 42 week mark, there's a higher chance of the placenta dying, which affects the baby and everything else. So I knew, okay, this is becoming very crucial and important. I need baby to come. So in the room, I just started doing lunges. They kept saying about induction again. Then we had nurses come to our room and said, okay, you're going to head down at around 8 o'clock. Induction's going to take place. This was a few days later. And I was like, okay, well, I've been waiting. They keep bumping this. I'm still going to keep trying to get baby to come. I started doing lunges in the room. I just started doing different exercises, pacing back and forth, just doing whatever I could to try and get this baby to come and for me to go into labor. I still never felt no pain, no stomach pain, back pain, nothing like that. Like I said, my head was still kind of weird where my blood pressure was up and down, but besides that, no pain. And I just wanted to feel some pain. I even said to the nurses, it's to a point I want pain so I know I'm going into labor and baby's on its way, because this is, oh my goodness, this is starting to make me a little nervous about how far along I'm starting to get, and I'm approaching the 42 week mark. Now going over 40 weeks, yes, it is also normal, but again, I also knew there are more risks when that happens. I was making sure I was doing everything to make sure baby was going to be delivered safely and healthy. So I just wanted to ensure that if I could get myself to go into labor and for baby to come, I would do that. Later that night came, they finally approached our room so we can go downstairs. So me and my husband, we went back downstairs. They said that our induction was going to be around 8 p.m., which was ironic because a few days prior it was supposed to be 8 p.m. So we were like, okay, well, it was gonna be this time anyway a few days ago. It is what it is. At least it's happening. We're downstairs now where they're supposed to do the inductions, which is great. What?
There's a ventilation for smoke. If there was a fire, you wouldn't be released like the smoke out.
Oh.
Hospital hats, or
Pardon?
are you going to keep them hospital hats, or are you just going to put them yours on?
I don't know.
Like when needed hospital hats on?
I don't know.
Pink ones with like a rainbow color.
Might take one just as a souvenir for in her keepsake box, but besides that. There was only one delivery doctor on staff that night, and he was actually delivering another baby. So we were in a room by ourselves. It was supposed to be induction at 8, and hours passed. We had probably 1 or 2 nurses come into our room. That was it. That's all we seen. Besides that, me and my husband were by ourselves, and I just looked at him and I said, all right, clearly you're exhausted. So he went over in the chair. He was gonna rest just in case induction did occur and happen, that he was well rested in case I go into labor and baby comes. I wanted to pace back and forth the room down there, so that's what I did. I just started doing what I was doing pretty much all earlier that day, just pacing the room. There was a point I actually went over to the bed. I just knelt down and I remember just asking Ryan's grandparents and my grandparents who passed away. I said, please, please, please help me have this baby now, go into labor. Induction, I've been waiting. I'm starting to I just want baby to come now, and I want her to be healthy and safe. Please help me go into labor and have this baby. I got back up, started pacing the room again, and I remember I looked at my husband, not saying this had anything to contribute to it, because I know some people are going to be like, you know, but it was just one of those things I did just, I guess, to give myself peace of mind and just something to just be like, I don't know why I did it, because I'm not the type to do that type of stuff, but that's something I did. And again, anyway, but I remember I started to feel a little crampy, and I looked at my husband and I said, I think I'm going into labor. I felt no back pain, nothing like that. Now, on and off the past few days, my stomach was tightening and hardening, and that was it. But they were thinking that it was possibly Braxton Hicks that I was having, because I was having no other pain. That was happening again downstairs, relaxing of my stomach, but also happening was a little bit of, like I said, crampy. Nothing serious or anything like that, but I just felt it. Like I just said, I looked at my husband and I just tapped him, woke him up and said, I'm pretty sure I'm going into labor. I remember I buzzed a nurse in. I said, I don't care who comes in right now, what nurse comes in, I just need someone right now. I'm pretty sure I'm going into labor. So the nurse came in and looked at me. Now, earlier when one of the nurses came in, and like I said, we probably only seen one or two. This was now roughly 2 a.m. We were there from roughly 8 p.m. to now 2 a.m., only seeing two nurses, and that was it. And like I said, the doctor was busy delivering another baby. So it was just pretty well me and my husband for hours on end in the room, because they were so swamped, so busy. One second. Baby's crying, I gotta go to baby. Hello everyone, sorry I am back again. It's just I had to change her, as well as give her her bottle and just rock her and just spend some time with my little baby girl. And as mentioned in a previous video, and probably at the beginning of this one, I can't really recall, her face will not be shown for privacy and protection reasons. As for parents, we feel very obligated to make sure that she has her privacy and she isn't plastered all over social media or online for random strangers to see, and that's just a personal preference of ours. Again, as our parents, we just feel very obligated to protect and keep her privacy private, just like we won't be mentioning her exact birth date. Her face will not be shown. You'll probably hear her, or you'll probably see like the back of her head or her arm or something like that, but in regards to seeing her face, you will not see that. We will not be mentioning the exact date of her birth, as well as her full name we will not mention. I don't even think we mentioned her first name yet. It might come up here and there in videos, but in regards to her full name, once again, for privacy and protection reasons, we will not be doing it. She has rights as well. Even though she's a little baby, she still has rights. So anyway, back to where I left off. I felt like I was going to labor. We buzzed, a nurse came in. I then stated to her, I felt like I needed to push. She told me, no, wait, no one came in to really check you yet or anything like that. And I was like, well, like, this baby is coming. I'm in labor. I feel it. I know I'm in labor. And she said, no, don't do anything yet. She leaves the room. I look at my husband and I was like, I'm going to push. I don't care what they say. I feel like I got to. I'm going to. Whether anyone is here to help me or not, we're doing this. We're having this baby. It was just me and my husband left again to ourselves. I started pushing because I just felt that urge and need to push. So we were there all by ourselves in this hospital room. Then all of a sudden a nurse comes back in and I look at her and I said, listen, I am literally feeling the urge to push. I already started to. They said I have to be checked and everything yet, but no one's been here to do that. And like, I need this baby to come. I can feel it. I know I'm in labor. So anyway, they went and checked and I said to them, it literally feels like I'm 5 to 6 centimeters along. Now, at that time, you shouldn't push, but that's just what I felt. I felt the urge to push. And when she went to check, I even said, I'm 5 to 6, aren't I? And she looked at me and then looked at the nurse who came in after and stood next to her and said, you're 5 to 6 centimeters dilated. I was like, oh, well, see? Then my husband laughed and then the other nurse laughed and said, can you predict lottery tickets as well? And I just laughed. I said, well, I'm definitely in labor. And she said, yep, you're definitely going into labor. But we all just ended up having a little bit of a chuckle, and I understood they were extremely busy. And me and my husband were very much aware too. It's not the nurses or the doctor's fault. literally, it's whoever's staffing at that hospital literally needs to reevaluate, because I should have never been left in a situation where I was in a hospital room all by myself, told that I was being induced, and here I'm no longer going to be induced because I'm about to go into labor and on the verge of going into labor. My dilation happened very, very quick. I went from 5 to 6 centimeters and feeling kind of pain to I was then 6 to 7 centimeters and really feeling pain. And I didn't want to have an epidural done in the beginning. The nurses kept looking at me and they kept stating, "You sure? You sure?" I said, "I can do this." I thought I had a very strong pain tolerance. I do not. I quickly discovered, now I probably have a high pain tolerance for other things, but birth, I clearly do not, and I thought I did, but I made it pretty far without giving in to the epidural. Now, they kept stressing it because there is a time frame, and once you go into full-blown labor, the epidural's out. They won't even give it to you. That's it. You got to tough it out and do it on your own. So I was already 6 to 7 at this time in excruciating pain, screeching, and that's when I said, "Please, please, please. All right, give me this epidural. I'll have the epidural." And my husband was like, "Thank you." He was so happy. And he even said, "It is your decision. It's your choice in the end, but clearly you're in excruciating pain. Right call, good choice, epidural." So I ended up getting the epidural after, and I just felt this calm relief of just, I could take a deep breath and just relax, and it was so nice. So anybody who is thinking the way I thought and no epidural and you can do this, and yes you can, and no one said you can't, but if an epidural is offered, take the epidural. It doesn't make you any less or anything like that by getting the epidural. It just gives you such relief. And when I found out the weight of my baby after, trust me, it was a good call. So I was dilating very quickly. I went from 6 to 7, 7 to 8. Like I was boom, boom, boom. It was happening very fast. And I mean extremely fast. Next thing I know, I'm in full-blown labor. The doctor who had been busy with another patient ended up coming in after because he was done with that patient. So he was in directing me, telling me when to push and all this. And I was just pushing, doing it whenever I could. And they said, "Oh, when you're contracting, push." So then I was trying to do that. The baby's heart rate started to drop. And I was just trying to do whatever I could to deliver my baby. This was all new to me. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just trying to do whatever I could. So then the doctor looked at one of the nurses and said, "Okay, we might have to apply the vacuum just because this isn't happening quick enough for what we want, especially where the baby's heart rate is dropping and we need to get the baby's head out." I started to kind of panic at that time simply because my husband's cousin, that's how she ended up passing away. They used the vacuum on her. Something went wrong. I didn't want that done. I just said, I appreciate that you want to do what you can, but at the same time, I do not want that vacuum used on my baby because of my husband's cousin. That's how she ended up passing away. And he simply said, "Well, I can't speak on behalf of what happened to his cousin, but trust us, this is safe. It is a safe thing that we're doing and using. This vacuum is just to help the baby to come out a lot quicker. It just goes on the baby's head and just helps." And I just, no, I couldn't have that. Everybody was gowning up, getting ready to do this, whether I liked it or not, which I understood because right now it is the baby that is the priority, which I also understood and knew. So I started pushing like a crazy person. I mean, even off contractions. And the doctor even said it to one of the other nurses, "Never seen this." He's like, "I've never seen this before." Because the baby was literally coming out even off of contraction. I was pushing and the baby was still making headway. And the head came out and everyone who was pretty well just about gowned up looked at each other and was like, "Well, we don't have to use the vacuum now because the baby's head is now emerged." And I just felt this great sigh of relief. And I knew, okay, me doing that, I probably tore and I got that. But at the same time, I just wanted to do whatever I could to get the baby out and that not been used on my baby. I also heard from one of Ryan's other aunts that was used on her grandson, and it actually ended up tearing a bit of the scalp. So I didn't like the idea of it, and again, I just wanted to do whatever I could to make sure baby came out. When all was said and done, my full delivery of baby took 20 minutes, and she was 9 pounds, 3 ounces. One of the nurses said if they knew that the baby was going to be that large, they would have highly, highly suggested a C-section, especially where she was a larger baby, and it was my first pregnancy. I did end up getting 2 second-degree tears, but apparently that's pretty normal, and it will heal over time, and I will take that any day over a C-section because I really didn't want a C-section. I just really wanted to birth my baby and not do the C-section route and just have the baby taken out, I guess. So that to me was so special, so amazing, and even for my husband to see it. And everything went that quick. They didn't even have time to cover me in anything. So full-blown exposed during the whole delivery. My husband seen everything, and I mean everything. He actually cut the cord, which I was so happy about. I didn't actually get to see him cut the cord because I was so preoccupied with other things and doctors and nurses talking to me and just looking at the baby. But my husband, yes, he did cut the cord. That to me was just so important. It honestly did melt my heart to know that he did do that, because I know that stuff does kind of gross people out, but he stepped up and he did it. He cut our cord. He actually was the one to take all the pictures of her getting weighed in and things like that for me, so I could just rest and relax a little bit. But yes, she ended up weighing 9 pounds, 3 ounces, big girl, extremely healthy. Everything with her was fantastic. She had no signs of jaundice. Her heart rate was good. Everything with her legs, hands, eyes, ears, everything seemed really, really good. Now we do have another appointment coming up with the audiologist. They just want to double check and make sure with her ears because it is in the family. I have family members who are hearing impaired. So just to be on the safe side, they want to 101% rule that out. So we do have an appointment with that. But everything with her had been extremely fantastic. She was 54 centimeters in length. Normally babies would lose a little bit of weight after birth. She actually gained a few grams after birth. She didn't gain a whole lot, but she did gain a little bit. But we were just, as soon as she came up, we were steady timing out, making sure she was still getting her proper feedings and everything like that. Not saying anyone else doesn't do that and that's why their babies lose weight. It's just something that happens, and it's usually just standard that after the baby is born, they will lose a little bit of weight, but our baby didn't. But she is so cute, so amazing, and just so beautiful. Everything about her, even my husband said, is just, she's perfect. She's absolutely perfect after waiting so many years to become pregnant, and then just to have the most amazing, beautiful experience with the most beautiful little girl. It was just so rewarding, and just, I would never trade it for the entire world. He would never trade it for the entire world. It was the best experience in our lives, hands down. After the birth, I did go into a little bit of shock. I passed out. I ended up getting extremely cold where I was steady shivering. And like I said, I did go into a little bit of shock after the fact, so I did have to be monitored for a bit. Still issues with my blood pressure. I'm still on blood pressure medication. They said that could take a bit and just that will work itself out. I also had to get a boost in my iron after the fact. They did an iron infusion, I think it was called. They did that just to get that all boosted up and okay for when I went home. And they said just to be careful because where I did have to get stitches, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I'm just so excited now to have her home. She's doing absolutely amazing.
Yeah, you're trying to talk to me. You got your eyes open, you're sticking your tongue out at me. Yeah. You decided to come to life now, are you? You're quiet all day. Now you're gonna put the place up. We gotta try to get some sleep.
We certainly are going to be taking breaks here and there from posting videos. Our dog content, yes, will be coming back. Speaking of, when we came home, the dogs were so excited. They were running around the yard. My husband, of course, where we were in the hospital for a few days. I think I mentioned this already earlier. I can't really recall because the first bit of the video was done a little while ago because I had to go and, like I said, make sure the baby had food and was changed and just cuddled, because every second I can get to cuddle her, I will. But when we came home, the dogs were extremely excited. My husband had been back and forth constantly from the hospital to check in on the dogs, so they were being closely monitored, fed, let out to use, and he would just spend some time with them, and then he'd come back to the hospital. So the dogs were definitely taken care of, but they weren't seeing me, and they were so used to seeing me. So when they finally did, oh my goodness, they were showing off in the backyard, running around, playing, so excited. And I just loved seeing all of them. I miss them all so much. Now the baby will not be interacting with the dogs right away. We did have the dogs out on the back patio, and our back door has a little glass window in it. I held her up so all the dogs could see her. So they have seen her. They have got her scent and smell off of my husband, as well as when I did go out on the back patio, because I can't go down the stairs just yet for the back patio. It hurts a lot to do that motion for up and down the stairs just yet. But when I did go out on the back patio, it was so nice to see all of them. They were so excited. And then when they were down in the yard, they got to see me up on the patio. But again, they got the scent off of my husband as well as myself, and a blanket. I ended up having a blanket that they all smelled the baby off of. So they do know the scent. They do hear her. They understand there's a little one in the house. So they do hear her cries. They hear her little noises, things like that. So they are aware, okay, there is someone else in the home. And again, like I said, we held her up so when they were all out on the back patio, they could see her and she could see them. But the dogs, oh my goodness, you can tell they're very excited. They don't seem jealous at all. They don't seem upset or angry about the situation. And in the coming weeks, what we will do is one by one, a dog will come with us for a walk when we go with her for a walk. And one by one, we will have them see her from a distance. But again, it's not at a point, she's still very, very young, where we don't want the baby and one of the dogs. We do trust all of our dogs. Our dogs are absolutely amazing. They're still animals though, so we still want to be extra cautious and aware that they are still animals. They still have natural instincts. They still at times can become a little bit unpredictable. Regardless of how much you trust your animals, always still proceed with caution, especially around little ones. And again, they will all get to meet her and they'll all get to spend a bit of time with her. It's just, as of now, a little bit at a distance. As she gets a little older, they'll interact more and more with her. It will always be closely monitored by myself or my husband. She will never be left unattended. But yes, again, dog content will be coming soon. We'll be throwing in some videos here and there of baby updates as well, just because that is now part of our channel, as it's now part of our lives. There's a baby in the house now, so that will be some content. But again, her face will not be shown in any of that content. But thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video, everyone. Bye now.